Coming to you tonight from HEC TV, I'm Haley Dakota.
And I'm Claire Harrison.
Tonight we're talking about the momentous time in history, Brown v. Board of Education on May 17, 1954 in Topeka, Kansas. The Supreme Court ruled that the segregation of black and white students was unconstitutional and a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Unlike the Plessy v. Ferguson decision of 1896, which allowed state-sponsored segregation, Brown v. Board did the opposite. This gave African Americans the chance of equal opportunity in school. This ruling paved the way for integration and was a major victory of the civil rights movement.
Because of Brown v. Board, today, on September 25, 1957, Little Rock High School was able to have their first classes with integration of African Americans and white students. Now let's go to Mrs. Lenz, a teacher at Little Rock High School, to hear her opinion about the moral and ethical implications about Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court decision.
What is your opinion of the Brown versus Board of Education court case?
Oh, golly, I really believe in equal rights for all people, and certainly in education where people have to have a right to be educated. They have to have every single opportunity to make our country a great country, starting with young children and going all the way up through college.
Here we have a different opinion coming from Mr. Jensen, who works at an integrated school, about his thoughts on the moral and ethical significance of Brown versus Board.
What is your opinion of the Brown versus Board of Education court case?
It is not the best thing that has ever happened in America. It goes against all the rights of a white person. The Negroes have a school to go to, so why do we have to let them into our school when they are still getting educated somewhere else? Why do I have to sacrifice my time and energy teaching them when they could just go to another school?
Hi, I'm Elia Healy. And I'm Callie Carstens. I'm here to talk to you about why the Brown versus Board of Education changed the perception of our country. The Brown versus Board of Education changed the perception of the United States because separate but equal was unconstitutional against the 14th Amendment. It changed the United States because African Americans declared equal opportunity as whites in education. But when the court made equal opportunities for everyone, whites reacted.
Everything they did was separated, and this created feelings of inferiority among the blacks. American life today would be so different without this event. Also because of this event, other ethnic groups such as Mexicans and Asians stood up to fight for their rights. This event didn't change everything right away. There were still rallies and people speaking out for black rights. Many people in the South that were always opposed to desegregation were upset by this decision. They felt superior to blacks and didn't want to be in the same room as them. They thought of them only as slaves and thought that was all they were worthy of.
Brown v. Board of Education affected the interactions of African Americans and whites throughout the country and changed the relationships between other minorities. Before Brown v. Board, African Americans and whites, especially on the topic of education, promoted a separate but equal principle. Interactions between these two racial groups were stingy and stubborn. Executive and legislative branches of government were unwilling to promote additional reforms, and the whites overpowered not just government issues but a broad range of societal conflicts. The National Association for Advancement of Colored People, also known as NAACP, realized they would not implicate any change with these two branches of government, so they decided to turn to the federal courts to attain its goals. The relationship between the whites and blacks slowly progressed towards equality, one side pushing for their rights and the other side restraining against change. Tensions rose with the NAACP winning a number of key cases. This included Sweatt v. Painter and McLaurin versus Oklahoma State Regents. Part of the strain on their relationship was caused by their differing views of the same situation. A truly equal education was not just educating African Americans similar to white universities, but also enrolling black students into previously segregated schools.
After Brown v. Board, whites also developed their relationship with Mexican Americans. Rebellions were starting to form. Mexican Americans realized they could also and should also fight for their rights. This started with the Hernandez versus Texas, where the court allowed Mexicans in the trial juries. This was the first Supreme Court ruling against discrimination. that didn't involve African Americans. Between the whites and the African American interactions were more violent and hateful. Just last year, the Southern Manifesto occurred. About 100 congressmen pledged to stop the Brown ruling by any means, claiming the Supreme Court had misunderstood the Constitution. The KKK also increased their interactions with the public.
Brown v. Board also strengthened relationships as well as weakened interactions in society. The Supreme Court started agreeing with many civil rights advocates and ruling for minorities' causes opposed to against them. Minorities felt better in the courtroom and more confident that their rights would be granted to them.
The relations in the South were especially weakened by the Brown v. Board ruling. The Ku Klux Klan gained more followers with the White Citizen Council, encouraging people to stop segregation and intensified the hate towards African Americans and Mexican Americans and other racial groups. Between government and citizens, some relationships were hurt because congressmen wanted to dehumanize African Americans and were more driven to stop this slow progression of African Americans gaining rights. Watching our special on Brown vs. Board of Education. Tune in tomorrow night at 10 for the Marty Plum documentary on his rise to fame.
Catch you later!